Picture this. You just got home from a long day of school and or work. You go to eat your dinner while watching some YouTube videos and start unwinding down for bed. Up to this point, your day has been pretty mundane, so you now look to transport yourself to another world. A world where you are the main character. People all around you complimenting you and wanting to be your friend. Love and romance seemingly flow to you with ease. Having all your materialistic desires. Perfect character traits that create a healthy, glowing aura around you. And most importantly, feeling confident in every situation and social setting that you find yourself in. Can this get any better? Actually, it can, but it's time for bed. Wattpad is an online platform that allows users from all across the world to read, write, and interact with stories, such as commenting and bookmarking it. The purpose of this is to provide an outlet for people to transmute their creativity into intricate stories that can range from action and adventure, romance, horror, and even fan fiction. At first glance, this platform seems nothing to get worked over because of what the platform stands for. But with some digging, you can not only find highly detailed stories that are out there, to put it nicely, but also the effects it can have on your mental health and daily life if not careful. So, today, let's dive into the crumbling fantasy of Wattpad. When someone sees a blank piece of paper, they don't think much of it. But for a writer, it's much more than a piece of paper. It's a blank canvas that allows them to drift into a world where they have creative control over characters and their traits, flaws, and development as the story goes on. Plots with twists and turns that leaves viewers hooked, and the ability to use techniques such as metaphors and similes, foreshadowing, imagery, and much more. Unsurprisingly, this outlet can be used as an escape mechanism when the reality the writer is living in is not ideal, so they turn to using their imagination to create a better reality they desire. While some stories are direct with their approach and flat out state this story is my desired reality, most stories are subtle about it and requires deeper deciphering to understand the writer's underlying desires. One example I love to use in this discussion is to picture someone's entire YouTube subscription feed being filled with couple YouTubers. What does that say about this individual? It says on a deeper level that they want what the YouTubers are displaying, whether that is love, the lifestyle, certain traits they possess, certain scenarios that might have played out in videos, and much more. The reason I bring this up is because instead of someone engaging with their life and trying to work towards attaining their desires, they instead write about it in circles, wishing for it to happen one day. For example, let's say I wrote a story about wanting to become a YouTuber, and every day I wrote in detail about what I would upload, the type of community I would foster, and the impact I would want to make on this channel. But I haven't even created my account yet. People love playing around with the idea of it because the actual work that goes into whatever you desire will cause you to make sacrifices and experience pain and rejection. So now your brain is saying, why put ourselves through all of this when we can just write about it instead from the comfort of our own home? At the end of the day, it's just a rationalization your brain is using to sabotage what you actually want from this life. Whatever desire you have right at this current moment, maybe it's a career path that is different from the rest, love, happiness, and peace, you're more than capable of achieving it and living that reality, as opposed to writing about it. With Wattpad being an online platform, it's no surprise for them to have features that allow the writers to receive validation from other users. Readers have the ability to vote your work and show support to the writer. Just like with any other platform that allows the creator to receive feedback, it can skew the content and intention of the writer. Especially with the majority of users on Wattpad being kids, seeing potentially hundreds and thousands of votes can make the writers head in a direction meant to garner views instead of what the writer genuinely wants to write about. Majority of the time in this discussion, the content the writer is working on is suitable to be on the website and is actually good. But on the other end of things, there are a subsection of writers who may write odd topics and weirdly specific scenarios and desires. In my opinion, I see this happen in the fanfiction space more than any other subsection of Wattpad. The amount of times you'll look up an anime and see stories, drawings and videos of characters being shipped together have extensive lore about them that the creator made up, and make them engage in weird activities is disturbing. The cycle continues as the writer makes odd writings, receives a little bit of validation, and then makes more odd writings, and then receives validation, until one day they realize how much time and energy they poured into this website in skewed fantasy. One example that mirrors this is YouTubers. They start off posting freely, and once a video or two blows up, they continue making similar content to capitalize off of that success. However, there are a few creators who will go all out in playing a character that doesn't represent them in the slightest, or even worse, harm and harass people just to get views, just to experience that virality they once had. So before you write off in Wattpad, think twice on what the true intention behind your work is. While I love the idea of dreaming big and creating a reality that for most seems unrealistic, I also believe that realism should play a factor in this as well. If you dream of owning luxurious cars and big properties, you might be fantasizing about the idea of driving around, showing off to people, and having your dream set up. But on the other side of that, there's the reality of making enough money to sustain the lifestyle, monthly payments, increased taxes and bills, insurance, and much more you don't tend to think of. I say this because similar tendencies happen when writers on Wattpad write about their desires and expect real life to match exactly how you'd imagined it. And when it doesn't line up close to what they expected, is deemed a failure. And then how do they cope with this? Writing about it. Thus creating a cycle of being trapped by your own high standards and not being able to live your normal life. This could be in how people treat you. You might expect everyone to fall head over heels over you and treat you like the main character, how you want your life to treat you, and the expectations you have for yourself to be flawless. The biggest example of this is the perception people have of love. Because of media shown to them at a young age with social media, books, and Disney movies, they think love is this magical thing that every day will be full of romance and adventures, when in reality that is far from the truth. In fact, I can guarantee that there will be more uneventful days where y'all might bump heads about things, spend the whole day in the house, and continue to experience personal problems that a partner cannot fix. And that is completely fine. But when you put the expectation of excellence and nothing less, you will inevitably run into problems and ruin your chances with people or opportunities that have the potential to sprout into something beautiful. To remedy this dilemma, I highly recommend doing some introspection and figuring out why you have the beliefs you do now. Where did they come from? Genuinely, did they come from a TV show, from your parents growing up, social media? I guarantee once you do this, your writing and expectations of how things should play out in life will shift drastically, and now you will be able to appreciate the whole experience instead of just the highs. With Wattpad allowing creative freedom to writers, there are going to naturally be some stories that aren't kid-friendly and contain inappropriate material. The problem lies with the majority of users being kids. They have the ability to access this and indulge in these stories freely. Especially nowadays, with anything you look up innocently, such as video game characters and cartoon shows, is now turned into something inappropriate for people to discuss and write about. In addition with the content, kids nowadays are being raised on the internet, which only fosters this behavior even more when there is an echo chamber of people reading the same thing you are, liking the stories and voting for more, and thus creating more weird stories for people to consume. This can be an easy gateway for addictions and escapism to take place, especially at a young age. While Wattpad does have a system in place for NSFW content being flagged and taken down, it's still seen as a problem and lacks a reliable moderation system, since content that is marked as mature can still violate guidelines. And also, just like with any other website, what is stopping the person creating the account from lying about their age so they can view the content? Naturally, there are going to be a few pieces of work that slip through the cracks and people lying about their age to view it. But at this point, we can only hope for a better moderation on the website and for younger audiences to avoid NSFW content as a whole and to not be dragged down in this pit of lustful and violent stories. It's sad to even talk about this since we already know there is a big issue, but the potential amount of weirdos stalking accounts trying to create fantasies about the writer because of what they wrote about love or mature stories is insane. When writing about your desires with specific details, I like to view that as a window to the writer's soul and heart. A sacred expression such as writing allows the writer to be vulnerable and transmute their thoughts and feelings into a cohesive story to entertain and inspire people. But for weirdos on the platform to take the joy out of this and exploit writers is purely disgusting. Bribing them with potential rewards in writing competitions, encouraging them to write topics they wouldn't have otherwise, and providing a false sense of friendship and support. While I love the idea of giving writers a place to create stories to their heart's content, I would still be wary of the potential internal and external problems you may face consciously or unconsciously. And most importantly, remember not to fall into the false, crumbling fantasy Wattpad has to offer.